In the mountains along the southern border of the Czech Republic, the forests and lakes are in the icy grip of winter. The South Bohemian fish ponds are flat sheets of gleaming white, silent and deserted. All around, the woods and meadows are blanketed in snow. Countless pictures and shapes etched in the ice seem like coded messages predicting the arrival of spring. As the short winter's day comes to an end, a family of otters set out on a hunting trip on the frozen river. Occasional holes in the ice are their only access to the fish-filled water. But deep underground, the water doesn't stop moving even in winter. In this labyrinth of cast caves, the water is constantly at work, sculpting the rock. By April, many species of bats have woken up from their long winter hibernation in the caves. The most numerous are the greater mouse-eared bat and the lesser horseshoe bat. The meadows on the banks of the Berounka are still under snow, but on the river, nature is coming to life as the fast-flowing water breaks through the icy crust. On the lakes and ponds, too, the sun and waves eventually break up the sheets of ice. As the thaw advances, the water once again becomes a rich source of food. Common frogs emerge from their winter quarters to seek out the pools where they will lay their eggs. The ice-free waters of the ponds tempt a flock of migrating ducks to take a rest. Moor frogs don't mind the icy water. Common frogs, too, begin their mating soon after the ice melts. Now all the snow has gone from the low-lying meadows, while in the forest the rain melts the last of the ice. Meltwater from the higher slopes fills the streams, and for a while the spring flood transforms the Vidra into a raging torrent. Strange voices can be heard through the morning fog. Black grouse are performing on their display sites, competing for the attention of the hens. Under the bare crowns of the trees, the first spring flowers, spring snowflakes and liver leaves, burst into bloom on the carpet of last year's leaves. Life returns to the forest. In Podii National Park in South Moravia, spring arrives early. The deep canyon of the river Dyje is almost untouched by civilization. The wooded slopes, rocky outcrops, riverside meadows and scrub together make up a mosaic of varied habitats for many rare plant and animal species. Among the trees, the sun-warmed earth is briefly transformed into a dazzling carpet of anemones. The great spotted woodpecker gets to work, carving out a new hollow in a tree, a job that will take over a week. Abandoned woodpecker nests are taken over by the pygmy owl, which is only a little bigger than a sparrow. The pygmy owl is active mainly at dusk, leaving the nighttime forest to its bigger cousins. In a cavity in an old beech tree, a hungry brood of young tawny owls wait for their parents to return. The watery landscape awakens to a new day, with the calls of grey herons, the cries of gulls, and the mating dance of great crested grebes. At dawn, a night heron finds a resting place on a shrub-covered island. While in the reed beds, a new day begins for the rare bearded tits and bluethroats. By late April, the countryside is bursting with new life and clad in every imaginable shade of green. On its upper reaches, the river Lužnice, untouched by the work of man, constantly changes its course, forming new meanders, oxbow lakes, and pools that provide an ideal habitat for many forms of life. On the bleached limestone ridges of the Palava Hills in South Moravia stand the ruins of medieval castles. These dry, grassy slopes with their clumps of hawthorn and blackthorn are home to many heat-loving plant and animal species. By April, the south-facing slopes are dotted with purple iris and brilliant yellow pheasant's eye. Each passing week brings new flowers, colours and fragrances. In early May, rare rock sand irises burst into brief bloom on the stony soil. They flower for just one day before they wilt. Now that livestock grazing is controlled, the military orchid has reappeared in Palava. The warm forest steppe is also home to countless insect species. This beautiful jumper spider hunts its prey on the limestone cliffs. The red-backed shrike's nest is well protected in a tangle of dog rose. The Krivoklat region forms a landscape unique in Central Europe. As the morning mist lifts, the quiet, enchanting beauty of the Berounka Valley is revealed. On the steep flanks of the valley, we can still find extensive lowland deciduous and mixed forests, which have long disappeared in other parts of Europe. The goshawk, though relatively common in the forests around Krivoklat, leads a secretive life and is rarely seen. High in the branches of a beech tree, a pair of rarer birds have made their nest. Honey buzzards usually only have one chick, which they feed almost exclusively on the larvae of wild wasps. Close to the mountains that form the northern Czech border, nature has carved out these remarkable towns of castellated rock. In the Český Ráj, Kokořínsko and Bromovsko protected landscape areas. The mighty gorge of the river Elbe is the gateway to Bohemian Switzerland National Park, with the largest natural sandstone arch in Europe, Pravčická brána. A pair of black storks has returned to their nest high on the rocks in the heart of the national park. Their 5 insatiable chicks are fed on a diet of regurgitated fish. The sandstone towers are also home to a pair of rare and endangered peregrine falcons. On these high, inaccessible ledges, they can nest in safety. In the meadows of the White Carpathians, May and June is the time for orchids. Over 40 different species grow here, among them the fragrant lesser butterfly orchid, as well as lady's slipper, broad-leaved helleborine, and bee and fly orchids. The flower-filled meadows attract huge numbers of insects. The exquisitely coloured bee-eater has returned to its traditional nesting sites among the orchard and vineyards of South Moravia. In June, the magical forest peat bogs are carpeted with flowering cranberry and sweet-scented Labrador tea. In early summer, too, a waving sea of white cotton grass appears. By late June, the kingfishers are raising their second brood of chicks. The stream, though small, provides just enough fish to feed their young, which are safely hidden deep in a burrowed-out hole. The floodplain forests in the Dia and Morava river basins in South Moravia are the last remnants of lowland alluvial forest in Central Europe. After many decades, those skillful and untiring dam builders, the beavers, have also returned to the region. The remote and wild landscape of Šumava National Park, together with the neighbouring Bavarian Forest National Park in Germany, form the largest protected area in Central Europe. A rare inhabitant of the Šumava forests is the three-toed woodpecker. A 150 years ago, peat was still being cut here. This overgrown pond is a reminder of those bygone days. The big Šumava lakes, on the other hand, were formed in the ice ages by the movement of glaciers. A dipper searches the crystal-clear waters for caddisfly larvae and small aquatic insects to feed its ever-demanding young. Acquiring their parents' diving skills is a long and tricky process. The idea of a ducking is obviously not very appealing. By early summer, the last snow has disappeared from the steep slopes of the Velká Kotlina, a glacial cirque in the Jeseniki Mountains. Soon, dozens of species of rare mountain plants come into flower. Botanically, this area is one of the most diverse in the Czech Republic, with at least 500 species of vascular plants. Krkonoše National Park forms an island of Nordic nature in the heart of Europe. The highest peaks of the Krkonoše, or giant mountains, have been shaped by frost, ice and wind. In this realm of swirling mist, the only trees that can survive on the sparse, stony soil are a few dwarf pines. But in summer, the steep glacial slopes are transformed into a garden as dozens of species of flowers burst into bloom. High on the subarctic peat bogs, the bluethroat makes its nest. For the red deer, the end of September marks the start of the rutting season. This is a demanding time for the dominant stags, as they must constantly protect their herds and fight off younger rivals. Nearby, a fox has picked up a scent. But this time, he's unlucky. The mouse is too quick. The countryside around the Trebonsko lakes, the legacy of Renaissance pond builders, puts on its dazzling autumn finery. Dams, dikes and islands blaze in the vivid hues of maple, lime, aspen, birch and oak. Elsewhere, too, autumn has transformed the landscape. In the Lusatian Mountains, in Bohemian Switzerland, and in the largest protected landscape area in the Czech Republic, the Beskidi Mountains. In Razula primeval forest, majestic fir trees tower above the canopy of beeches. These mighty trees are estimated to be 350 years old. Below them, giant trunks decay on the forest floor. Primeval forest forms an incredibly rich ecosystem. Among the many species that thrive here are many types of rare mushroom, some of them endangered. The large primeval forests are also the haunt of large predators, who have started coming across from the mountains of neighbouring Slovakia in increasing numbers. As the sun weakens, it takes longer to disperse the autumn mists. Then its rays pick out the brilliant hues of the woods, from the groves that wind along the valleys to the cathedral-like beech forests of the lower slopes and the coniferous taiga of the mountaintops. Any day now, the first snow will fall on the highlands of Šumava. Harvest mice forage for food in the manna grass, swinging among the stems like acrobats. They will remain active throughout the winter. Unlike the dormouse, who must now find a safe place to spend the winter. This one has managed to catch a lizard. It's likely to be his last square meal before he starts his long hibernation. On the Kamenitsa River in Bohemian Switzerland National Park, the first salmon have returned from the Atlantic to spawn a new generation of the king of fish. It's now early November. As the first snow dusts the sandstone cliffs, nature prepares for her long winter sleep. Our journey through the Czech landscape is coming to an end. But the cycle of the 4 seasons continues, each an eloquent witness to the natural beauty and diversity of the Czech Republic, a green gem set in the heart of Europe.